So I got to tell you guys, man, one of the best things that's happening right now is little by little, and granted, it's not a lot, but it's a little right now. Little by little, we have people in the mainstream gaming industry coming out and speaking out against this nonsense that we've been talking about for a long time now. And now it seems like, I guess they must feel safe to do so, at least slightly anyway. And I'm glad they're doing it, because I've been saying many, many times, we need more people in the mainstream industry who we know they're against this stuff. We know they hate the shit that's happening. They need to start speaking out publicly, and instead of speaking behind closed doors, because it does more damage that way. But with that being said, now we have the Halo series composer Marty O'Donnell apparently saying that the video game industry is pandering because they fear that being on the wrong side of some special interest groups who can be very loud and very annoying. Now, this is something we've been saying for quite a while, and we always get labeled as conspiracy theorists or whatever. I mean, make up whatever buzzword you want, but that's what we get labeled as whenever we talk about this stuff, and they try to gaslight you and say, oh, no, that's not happening, right? You got every single games journalist out there trying to tell you that's not happening. None of it's happening. These companies don't do what you think they do, et cetera, right? And they try to make you feel like you're crazy for realizing what's right in front of your face. It's very obvious and very easy to see what's happening, because they make it so obvious and easy. If they were a little more subtle about it, perhaps people wouldn't be able to catch on so easily, and yet they're not, because they can't help themselves. So let's get into this video, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says, in providing anecdotal confirmation to one of the most widely assumed reasons for the currently abysmal state of Western entertainment, original Halo series composer Marty O'Donnell has revealed that any and all such industries are currently living in fear of being on the wrong side of various special interest groups and their outrage mobs. Now, listen, we've been saying this time and time again, right? They are doing these DEI programs. I want to be very clear as to the reason why they're doing it. They're doing it because, not because of diversity, not because of equity, not because of inclusion. They're doing these DEI hiring and consultancy programs and all these programs to get more people into the gaming industry. The reason why they're doing it is because they are trying to fill their pipeline with future potential employees who are not only professional victims mentally, but they will shill for the big daddy corpo of which that hires them. You get what I'm saying? These companies want to indoctrinate and train people to always eat the shit of the corporation. They don't want you to think. They don't want you to question. And that's a true reason why these DEI programs exist, because the more people they can indoctrinate and kind of groom into that mindset, the more that they're going to be able to hire people that are going to do just whatever the fuck they say to do. And that's really what they want. They want people, regardless of skin color, who are going to sit there and just do what they're told. That's basically it. Do what you're told so that the executives can line their pockets with not only just ESG money, but also just money in general, right? They're the ones who are getting richer, and whether the company goes down or not doesn't matter. They still got their salary. They still made millions of dollars, and they don't give a shit. So the company staying afloat or the company dying means nothing to them, because they could just go to another company. They're all part of the same clique, and you're the one that's going to be left without a job, struggling from paycheck to paycheck. And that's it. And they figured out that you'll be fine with that. Most people will be fine struggling from paycheck to paycheck as long as they get virtue signaled to. It's the saddest thing in the world, and yet that's the state of the gaming industry. O'Donnell, whose talents helped to provide the soundtracks to each one of the mainline Bungie-developed Halo titles, spoke to this phenomena during a June 19th appearance on noted conservative commentator Andrew Chapato's eponymous Andrew Says podcast. Following a general discussion about his current political campaign to represent Nevada in the U.S. House of Representatives, O'Donnell was eventually pressed by Chapatos for his thoughts on the topic of DEI in video games, with the host inquiring, when you were involved in games, was representation on anybody's mind? Was the amount of diversity, the amount of transgender characters in games ever a topic that anybody thought they should worry about? In turn, the esteemed composer affirmed, no, it wasn't. And get woke, go broke. We kept seeing that happen over and over again, said O'Donnell. DEI is not diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a code word for essentially a Marxist worldview of power structures. There's so many catchwords that are being injected into the conversation. Colonization, decolonization, all these kinds of things. It's so far from what, especially in the entertainment business, what people should be worried about. Are you going to tell a good story? Are you going to make a good game? Are you going to do that something that's compelling emotionally for people? That's fun for people? That's what creators should be concerned about. And I agree. That's all we've ever been saying. But you're going to have people on a particular side of the aisle that are going to try to misinterpret what you're saying purposefully and try to throw it out there as something completely different than what it actually is. So they'll take your constructive thought. They'll take your nuanced thought about why DEI probably is not the best thing for video games or entertainment as a whole. And you'll explain why. And then they'll translate it and give it to their losers. And they'll say, you just don't like black people and women. That's it. You just want something to fap to. And that's what they do. They simplify it because they know if they let people hear the actual argument, if they let people hear the nuanced worldview, that it'll get a lot of people thinking and probably wake them up from their little sleep that they're in terms of the DEI nonsense. Pushing back against this popular narrative that prior to the 2010s, entertainment composed solely of straight white people, he continued, we'd had our share of, I guess I would say, diverse characters, but it wasn't because we needed to make sure there was a certain percentage of, to fill in the blank. It was because these were like great actors or there was going to be a great actor. It was never any part of what our discussions were about. Like, let's make sure we fill in the blanks so the game characters reflect perfectly the makeup of the society. The U.S. congressional candidate told Chapados, this is just a creatively dampening way of approaching things, which is why I think the fans are rejecting this ideology. The fans don't necessarily reject movies or games because of diversity or equity or inclusion kind of things are forced into face. Certainly they don't like being preached to, but basically they are not good products. At the end of the day, it's not fun to play. It is not interesting. These characters don't sound real. That's what ends up happening. They just don't like it. They're not good stories. They're not memorable. Well, that last part right there is spot on. They're not memorable. This is why the Western media has been focusing on just creating remakes over and over and over again, because they are creatively bankrupt. They can't actually have the creative freedom to make what they probably want to make because there's too many people who got their hands in a pot telling them they can't do it. Otherwise, it's going to be insensitive or bigoted or whatever. They have to be they're in a little pigeonhole and they can't get out of it. With the East doesn't give a fuck about that shit, which is why they don't really remake anything. They just constantly put out new shit. And if they want to make something from an old IP, guess what? They'll continue it. Look what they did with Slam Dunk in the manga. That's what they do. They don't like to remake shit, and it very rarely will they ever actually remake anything. They'll just continue with something new, and that's it. So unfortunately, creativity is just dead, man. It's dead in the water with a lot of Western video game developers and Western entertainment as a whole, which is why Eastern entertainment is on the rise and has been on the rise drastically, I should say, for a while now. So we're going to continue seeing that happen. I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon, but I'm glad, again, that another person who was in the mainstream industry has now come out and spoken out against this nonsense, and the more of them that do that, the better. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.